Hey everyone, welcome to the Mono Report. I'm your host Mono, and today I'm joined by my very special guest Vahn for an epic Avengers Infinity War big spoiler discussion. Vahn, how's it going? Are you excited?
Oh man, I'm beyond excited. I've seen this four times in IMAX. Oh, I'm ready to dig in deep on this movie, man.
Oh man, I can't think of a movie in recent memory that's just going to be changing conversations for the
I've said
foreseeable
it's one of the
future.
greatest movies ever made.
I mean, it's like I think it's like the best Avengers film that we've had. I think it like definitely tops Ultron. Definitely is either like on par or like just. I think it's a much better made film than the original Avengers. I think it's better like technically put together and everything, and
Strategically too.
strategically, just with story and narrative and everything. I think it's much better put together. Overall, I mean, like on my spoiler review, I gave it an 8.5. I still had like some like issues with it that wasn't quite going to get me to like the top, but it's with it. It's I think it's in my like top 10 Marvel films of all time. But it's just that's the thing. It's just there's so many great Marvel films that have just come out, but it's a really just such a massive payoff for all this build up that we've had over 10 years celebrating the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and now we've come to this. We've got something just so big and incomprehensible to the Marvel fandom that people were not prepared going in. I managed to go in completely dark. Usually there's like one or two details that slip out. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sure that's not going to be like a massive spoiler or anything. I'm going to be fine if I don't worry about it. I like with Ready Player One. Like I knew about like the Shining bit. That's spoilers for Ready Player One if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, shame
But
on you for not seeing that yet.
that's a great movie. That's one you should see. But this like yeah, I managed to go in completely dark. I mean, I had an idea like going off like Infinity like Gauntlet comic and everything, and just what had been done previously in the Marvel comics. So had sort of
Oh, but
like
it's so different.
very different. I'm glad that they changed it. I much prefer some of the motivations, like with Thanos, his motivation. I think it's much more interesting and better,
Much more relatable.
much more relatable, better developed. I think it's not okay. He has to court death. Like it's fun. I think there's some things in comics. It's like it's great for comics, but then you translate it over, and then you ground it a little bit more with something that people are going to get, rather than oh yeah, this is just sort of comic book jargon
Yeah.
that you like comic book fans have no problem like sitting through and everything. But this is gonna change the game. I mean, I remember like just that Thursday night crowd that I went with, just
Oh,
going.
yes.
That was like probably one of the best crowds that I've had. I mean, I went back Saturday, and the like. It's been a few days. Like most of the people like who go on Saturday have seen it anyway. But you get some like other first timers that go with you as well, and like the energy wasn't quite the same as that Thursday night screening. It's just everyone was. You had the diehard Marvel fans there to really soak everything and just be there for the ride. And just this time, like, but still, you managed to get like by the end of the movie. There's still like some like you could hear like sniffling around. People were still pretty upset with what had happened, and like
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's like we know. I mean, we know Avengers 4 is coming. We know, this is all going to be resolved next May next year. So there's going to be a big resolve to all of this. And I mean, we've seen set photos and things and everything like that. So we know like things are going to work out. But just oh yeah, I mean, you've done a spoiler review over on your YouTube channel. What like I guess just for the folks at home, what were your sort of overall general thoughts on the movie, man?
Well, like I said before, I mean, before when we were talking, this is one of the greatest movies ever made to me. This is not even one of the greatest Marvel films. This is one of the greatest movies ever made, and I know that's a huge, huge praise to give to something. And I know that a lot of people will say, "Well, you haven't let it sink in yet, man." Like, but I've seen it four times. I saw it twice Thursday night, saw it twice Friday, once today. It's masterful. It's masterful filmmaking at its best. I mean, yes, does it have its quips? Absolutely. But it's 2 hours and 36 minutes, and this thing feels like an hour. Usually, when you watch movies over and over again, you start to feel the length because you've seen it. But for this, it kept going really fast, and I just wanted another hour, and that's the greatest compliment I can give a movie is if I leave satisfied but wanting more, and we are gonna get more because regardless of what everybody says, this is part one of two, and it's just fantastic. I got to give it up to these Russo brothers, man. Why have every single movie they've done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe been the best? Because it's the Russo brothers. Captain America: Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War, Avengers: Infinity War, now Avengers 4, and Marcus and McFeely, the screenwriters, just teased this week and said what you've seen is not even close to what's going to happen in 4. It's going to be bigger, more heartbreaking, and more emotional. And oh my God, and yes, I walked in expecting big things from this movie, and I got every single one of those expectations fulfilled. Well, I'll say this: I overhyped it in a good way. Got everything paid off for me, but I also kept it a little, under the tone because I said, yes, as big as this is going to be, this is still the setup film, and by goodness, this is a setup film because, as Marcus and McFeely teased, if that Titan fight in the end is any indication of what's going to happen in 4 with Captain Marvel and Wasp and Ant-Man and potentially other characters we haven't been introduced to yet, oh my God, I cannot imagine what the next one's going to be. This fulfilled everything that it needed to for the past 10 years. As the Russos said, closed one door, opened another. And I'll just say this, man, for all the diehards and young filmmakers like us that go to these movies, this is what movie making is about, man. This is a painstakingly hard movie to make. But if anybody is trying to join the film business like me, it's one of these things where, what do you have to bitch about the projects that you're fucking, groaning about? Imagine working on something like this. And yes, you have two brothers that are directors working together, but man, just imagine the pressure and the fact that they pull it off each time. The fact that Feige sits down and goes guys, do what you want to do. If you fuck up, it's on you. But they have so much trust in these guys where you're you're not going to fuck up. That's why they just gave them the script with Marcus and McFeely, and they let them do whatever they wanted. Sure, there was a strategic plan, but the Russos and Marcus and McFeely just went out, man. This is masterful filmmaking. Oh man, I've said too much. This is just amazing.
I mean, it's just as I said in my non-spoiler review, it's I couldn't imagine at this point trying to wrap my head around everything the Russo brothers would have had to try and work out and try and fit all those scenes together, because somehow they managed to clash, put all these different clashing tones sort of together and make them work without feeling too jarring or feeling out of place or anything. I know some people have had an issue with it, and I mean, for me, there are certain segments that work better than others, where the heroes that are given a bit more focus seem a bit more natural and click together with the movie a little bit more, whereas some of the heroes that don't get quite as much screen time make the film a little bit slower in parts for me. But
we'll talk about that because I have a very good argument. I have a very good argument for that for the people that are dissing that. I think there's a very strategic idea as to why they did that, but we'll get to that. But huge shout out to Russo's, as we said, but not even that. Huge shout out to Marcus and McFeely writing this script, man. It's one of the best scripts I've ever seen on film, bro. Huge shout out.
I mean, this thing is just so meticulously planned out, because I think you've got to just thank Kevin Feige over everything, because without him, he's had this whole thing planned out. Because you look at this, nothing in this movie, there were so many callbacks, things that were important in previous films that have come back here, that it's all paid off. It's obviously being set up again for the next film. There's going to be the big payoff in Avengers 4, but just everything is so planned out, so thought through.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You said it, man. And and what's most interesting is, okay, this is spoiler review, baby, so we're gonna go all in on this thing. I will say this right now. You talk about all the payoffs that happen in this film. There are such little payoffs that if they ignore it, people will be like, all right, whatever. They just miss it. Man, the fact that I'm just gonna go straight to the point. The fact that they brought back Red Skull in this thing, yeah. They bring in Red Skull, and fun fact, it's not played by Hugo Weaving. It's played by an impersonator that sounds like him. That's why I had
Ross McQuarrie. Yeah. I think.
That's why I had an oh fuck moment on my face the first time watching because I'm like, did they really get weaving back on this shit? That's great. But my point being is, you could have easily excluded that plot point and just been like, have Gamora and Thanos go to Vormir. But the fact that he explains, yes, I held an Infinity Stone a lifetime ago and it banished me here. What are they alluding to? What happened in the first Captain America? They could have easily overseen that and been like, oh, it's not important. We'd have to go back to it. But the fan service works, and by God, it works. It's not just thrown in there. It makes sense.
It's all been so well thought out, and just it's just epic payoff for all the Marvel fans that have been, building this all, been with the journey for over the last 10 years, and who have gone to every single Marvel film, who have watched them over and over again. Now they get to experience and have that epic payoff that just makes everything worth it. And it's heartbreaking for this section, this half of the movie.
Oh, it's definitely heartbreaking. As the Russos even quoted, by God, are they right?
Yeah, this is, for me, just the fact that, it's the core Avengers that are left at the end of this. Just the ending alone is just going to be felt for so long. I mean, the only people that are left are Banner, M'Baku, Okoye, Rocket, Cap's still alive, Rhodey, Black Widow, Thor, Nebula, Tony. They're the only ones, the OG Avengers are alive. Everyone else, as far as we know, have gone. We don't know what's happened to Hawkeye or Ant-Man because, hey, they're not in the movie. Everyone was like, oh, come on, they're going to be in the movie. And it's like, no, they never showed up. But yeah. It's crazy. Like, we're back down to the core Avengers for Avengers 4, which I think's good considering how big this movie was, which also has me sort of thinking back to a comment that the Russo brothers made, is where they said, this film, you're going to have a certain group of characters that are going to get more screen time than other Avengers are going to get in Avengers 4. Avengers 4, anyone who had less screen time in the previous film will get much more prominence in Avengers 4, and which is interesting because so many of the people that did die, or supposedly died in this film.
I don't say, it's good to say they died, but the whole illusion of them being dusted out, I say they cease to exist.
Cease to exist. That's a good. Well, one good theory that I've heard online is with the Soul Stone being such a big deal in the film. Sacrificing a life for a life. We lost Gamora.
Soul for a soul.
Soul for a soul. The great theory that I've really been sort of buying into a little bit is that they're all sort of been trapped into the Soul Stone. Oh,
definitely. I read that too, and I was like, that's smart.
That's a smart theory, and I completely buy it if that's the way they go. They've just been trapped inside the Soul Stone. All their souls are just in the still with the gauntlet. That to me would be great if they're like, okay, they've just got to free everyone. But it would be interesting because Black Panther doesn't get, like, there are a number of characters that don't get as much screen time as the others. Black Panther is really kind of only in it once they get to Wakanda. Like,
man,
which amazing. Like, we've just had Black Panther. We get to have the sequel straight away, which is amazing.
How awesome is it that they bring the Ludwig Göransson Black Panther theme back?
The moment that score popped up in my
everybody cheered up. Man.
They were like, "Yes, we're back to Wakanda. We're going to Wakanda." And soon as the Panther showed up, the massive Panther, you're like, "Yep, okay, we're good. We're in Wakanda. We're in familiar territory."
And then Bucky as White Wolf.
White Wolf. That's the thing. This movie is just filled with so many Easter eggs that, like, you just have to keep going through and trying to pick out, like, this. I mean, it might not be at the level of Ready Player One, but for Marvel fans at least, like, this is going to be pretty big, I think. But
this is what I wanted to mention to you is that I alluded to this at the beginning of the show where you were talking about how people felt that some characters didn't get enough screen time and the more did. This is my argument that I was teasing before, because as the Russos have even said, this is Thanos' movie. The reason I feel this movie works so well is not because all these characters are only in it. The reason I feel like this works so well is because, in my point of view, this is Thanos' movie, and they just have every single character in this movie has a personal issue with Thanos. Whether it's Tony having Thanos's the fear of Thanos in his head for 6 years, Gamora literally being the daughter, Thanos killing the Asgardians that has an issue with Thor, Hulk is scared of Thanos. You have Vision who is basically in trouble because he has the Mind Stone in his head, and Black Panther is affected because Wakanda's in danger. Like, every one of these characters, I know I'm excluding other heroes like Doctor Strange with the Time Stone, but we get the idea.
Yeah.
The idea is that all these characters, one way or another, are affected by Thanos. And I think the reason with all these characters, the number of characters in this movie work, is because they don't technically have their own arcs, even though they do. All of their arcs have to do with Thanos, and that's why I think it beautifully works, and it makes sense for all of these characters to come together. It works so seamlessly. I don't know how it does, but it's one of these things where it just does. And Thanos is the key ingredient. If you don't care about what Thanos is doing, then none of these characters coming together would matter. And you know, as much as it sounds twisted, you empathize with Thanos. You empathize with what he's doing, even though he's going about it in a horrific way. The points that he makes aren't necessarily wrong in a certain point of view. He's doing horrific things to achieve that goal, but who doesn't want paradise in the universe? And that's what he feels. He feels like, you know, genocide is a small price to pay for the overarching salvation that he's talking about, a balanced universe, that the good and the bad could be equally balanced. And you know what? Props to this movie. The very last shot of this movie, spoilers, deep in spoilers, he's literally on what it looks like a ranch on an unknown planet. We don't know what that planet is. On my theory, it is a rebuilt Titan, but we don't know. He's in what it looks like a farmhouse or a ranch. He's sitting on the porch watching the beautiful sunrise that he was talking about at the beginning of the movie, a sunrise that a grateful universe could appreciate. And his face is not of anger that, oh my god, haha, I completed my mission. He's at peace. The villain gets his peace comeuppance at the end of this movie. What balls to basically say, you know what, our villain won, and you know what, he's at peace about it. He doesn't care that he ruined all these lives. He's actually at peace that he achieved the goal that he was achieving. And the scariest villains are the ones that believe that what they're doing is the absolute right way of doing things, and you know what, it works, and that's what makes Thanos so terrifying. And shout out to Josh Brolin. I mean, this is Josh Brolin's movie. The mocap on him is so good that on the extreme close-ups of Thanos' face, oh, not only do you see performance, you see Josh in that face. Like, the props. I said what I had to say on this tangent, but I'm sure you, John, and a lot of others would agree.
Absolutely. I mean, the CG work done, the mocap work done with Thanos, it's just everything about Thanos in this movie is just dedicated. You know, you've got to give all the props to Josh Brolin for being able to just going right in, owning the character completely, and just giving us someone that actually succeeds in his mission and actually in his mind, you know, cleanses the universe, you know, balances the universe to what he thinks is, you know, the right place for the universe to be in, which is just unbelievable. And I'm so glad Marvel went with that because, you know, we're all kind of tired of, you know, the one note villains, you know, the only villains that are only in there for one movie, one and done. That's it. You know, we know Thanos will be back. There's no, as you know, the very, very, very last line of this film, just as the film is about to end, Thanos will return.
Yeah, it's not the Avengers would return. They make it's again, it's not a coincidence that this is his movie. Instead of saying the Avengers will return, it's Thanos will return because his arc carries over to the next film, as that we all know.
Absolutely, and it's just the way they sort of humanize. Because I know I've seen some criticisms of, oh, people don't really believe whether he loved Gamora or not.
Oh,
but
I totally believed it.
I believed it as well. I thought every time, like the moment he's making that choice, and Gamora's going, "Oh, finally the universe has turned around on you. It's got you. You love nothing. I finally bested you. You know, the universe has finally bested you." And he turns around, and he's like, "No, sorry, child. You know, this is the choice, the sacrifice that I have to make." And the moment Red Skull, because I like what they do with Red Skull in this, where he's not he's broken down and beaten, and the way he sort of delivers that, the tears aren't for him, they're for you.
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, it's just rocks you.
I tell you, bro, I got something to say about this because this is, again, a movie about perspective. It's going to be a split fandom because some people are going to see it one way, other people are going to see it another way. I see it, this is my total opinion. Gamora, even though she hates fucking Thanos' guts, keeps saying that he's not her father. Yes, he's not her biological father, but he is her father. And I hate to compare it, but it's the only way I know how to do it. Remember in Return of the Jedi, when Luke tells Obi-Wan, "I cannot kill my own father."
Yeah.
I mean, Vader's never been there for Luke, but he is still his
It's
father.
still his
The
father.
same thing here. Thanos is Gamora's father, and when she is forced to stab him on the planet of nowhere, or the location of nowhere, she's crying that she did it, because even that she stabbed him, because even Thanos has this line where he's like, "I always knew you cared." She fucking hated his guts for what
Yeah.
he did to her and what he's been doing. But to me, there's always that bond of, though I hate this dude's fucking guts, I still appreciate, in some weird twisted way, she still looks up to him because he did protect her, even if it was in the most sadistic way possible. It's a beautiful, tragic relationship, which is so fucking good. Like
Yeah.
Zoe was so good in this fucking movie.
I mean,
So fucking good in this
it's
movie.
like it's. I think it was better pulled off than how Star Lord's relationship was done with Ego in Guardians 2, where you had the villain and hero relationship, and eventually had to spoilers for Guardians 2. He had to kill his own father.
Yeah,
Which
but
I mean,
if you're up to Infinity War and haven't seen Volume 2, what are you doing here?
Star Lord brings it up in the movie, so
Yeah,
if you're watching this, you're getting it spoiled anyway.
but it's also the thing that I think works better is because since the first Guardians, you have absolutely been introduced to the fact that she is his daughter.
Yeah.
So you've, up to this point, yes, Gamora is Thanos' daughter. We haven't explored that relationship, but the fact that you know that she is his daughter makes you already accept that relationship, because it's a preconceived notion. It's already in your head.
Yeah, so the thing that's going to really, I think, either boost or possibly subtract from this film is when Avengers 4 does come out, because this is going to, that's going to
Oh,
be
it's the longest
part
wait in
2.
history,
The
man.
longest wait in history, but whether opinions are going to change on Infinity War, and I imagine they will, because, I mean, it'll be just like how Empire and Return of the Jedi ended up being compared, where it was like, Empire, you had that massive wait, and then, okay, Jedi was its thing, and you had that payoff. So having Avengers 4 now be the Return of the Jedi, I think it's gonna either, I don't know, if it is bigger and crazier and it's gonna wrap everything up.
Well, I believe it because Marcus and McFeely said
Yeah,
that. But my
exactly.
point, yeah, but my point on this is, I'm glad you brought this up. I was talking to some people outside, out of the fourth screening in IMAX today, who brought up the same thing. To me, yes, this movie has a beginning, middle, and end, as the Russo said, and the next one will have beginning, middle, and end. But they have admitted, even though it's not called Part One, Part Two, it's undoubtedly Part One and Part Two.
Absolutely.
And the reason I'm saying this is because even though they were separate scripts, it was still one script as an idea. And my thing is they shot this back to back. Some days they shot Avengers Infinity War. Some days they shot the untitled Avengers 4. My point is I don't think my opinions are really going to change. I mean, I don't know 100%, but I feel like my overall love for this movie won't change. And I feel like, I hope for a lot of people it won't either, because they shot it back to back, but because they see this as one movie. The difference between this and Empire and Jedi are Empire got shot, then and then Jedi got shot. This got shot all at once. It's one huge story, even though they're two separate standalone feels and styles of filmmaking. There's still one giant story. So I feel like, no, I think that the Russos and Marcus and McFeely know exactly how they're going to make this feel like one complete story. I have no doubt that some opinions might change, but the overall impact probably won't, because I have faith that they're going to do an incredible job in satisfying and making sure that the stuff they did in this movie doesn't detract what happens in the next one, and vice versa. I feel like the impact, like, once they both come out on Blu-ray, right, and how it ends, you're still going to pop in one, like Avengers Infinity War, and you're still going to feel that impact.
You got to watch them back to back. You got to watch them back to back. That's what I feel.
So I don't think, down the line, I don't think the impact of this ending is really going to change. Let's talk about that, because, I've said it on my Facebook, and I've said it a couple of other places. People say it's too, you're comparing it for too much of a real world kind of thing, but I have no other way to say it, man. This movie gives you, I'm going to say metaphorically, because I know people have a problem with it. This movie, even though I've seen it 4 times in IMAX, each time gives you metaphorical PTSD, because you've experienced this giant war that's just happened, or the beginning of a giant war to come. And you feel these casualties. You walk out of the movie, you can't stop thinking about it. What else does that remind you of? It's great filmmaking, but it's also, if you're going to compare it to a real world aspect, it's PTSD. That's exactly what they wanted you to feel in this movie. Maybe I'm using the wrong terminology, but I don't know how else to explain it. That's just me though.
Well, I've definitely heard a lot of people say, it's a traumatic experience. I mean, there's a bit of hyperbole to go with it, but it's sort of like it's.
You know what I mean? I think the audience will know.
I think so, because for me, and it's a fair comparison actually, that I've seen people compare this to Back to the Future, where you go, this is Back to the Future 2. Avengers 4 will be, part 3 of
No,
Back to the Future.
I don't think so. I'm so glad that this is its own thing.
Well, it's seeing as just how, Back to the Future Part 2 obviously relied very, very heavily on the fact that Part 3 was coming out, a few months later.
Oh, absolutely. Which is underrated in my opinion. I love Part 3.
I love Part 3 as well. I mean, I know, like Part 2 is usually the one that gets looked down upon the
I even like that one a lot too.
I like that one as well, and that's usually the one that people are most nostalgic for. But I do kind of see it in sort of the sense of Back to the Future 2 and 3, right? I think like you can watch like Back to the Future like 2 perfectly fine as its own thing, but of course you've got the tease at the end. Like you have to go.
Yeah,
it ends. There's a trailer attached to it.
Yeah.
There's a trailer.
Yeah.
But Part 3, when you watch Back to the Future Part 3, completely standalone. I've watched Part 3 on its own many, 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 many times, and I'm fine with that. Like I don't need to watch Part 2, even though Part 2 is clearly setting up Part 3. Like it stands very much on its own.
But that's the difference here. I don't think you can watch Avengers 4 on its own. I just don't think you can. I just don't think you will be able to.
I mean, that's going to be the big question, I think, is how much payoff.
But we don't know at this point.
That's the thing. We don't know, and I think that's going to be the real thing that the Russo brothers are going to try and prove to us, is that, hey, we want to show you guys that these are, obviously 2 standalone films, as we were sort of promising. Of course, they're going to be connected, but we can also you can watch this as many times over as you want to, but you're going to get all the payoff for everything that came in before, especially Infinity War. Everything you've come to expect. You're going to get probably going to be getting the big send-offs for the original Avengers cast. Iron Man, Cap, and Thor. They're probably going to be sent off in Avengers 4. This is going to be their sort of last hurrah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen, Cap has Chris Evans has said, his contract's up, and I think he was saying he was just recently interviewed the last few days and said,
he was doing a Broadway show in New York,
and he's like he's pretty much retired after
Avengers. Yeah, he's gotten so skinny too.
He's gotten very skinny. I think he's pretty well done. I mean,
he's rocking a mustache, man.
It looks great. It is a porn stash, but it's a good porn stash.
But he said that's for the role, and I believe him.
And he rocks it, man. He rocks it for the role. But
well,
I think
I totally agree with you, and we're never going to know what exactly is going to happen. That's what the longest wait of our lifetime means. Like we want to know exactly how this pays off. And speaking of Back to the Future, I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do right now? I'm gonna literally tie it into this because speaking of Back to the Future and Avengers, let's talk about the Alan Silvestri score. Oh, man, yeah. He outdid himself. And for the few of you who don't know, Alan Silvestri, if you haven't heard any of his music besides this one, do yourself a favor and go listen to him. He's a legend amongst Hollywood. And if we're going to talk about just the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he composed Captain America: The First Avenger, the first Avengers film, and now he returns for Infinity War and Avengers 4. He outdid himself, and as much as I love that first Cap score and the first Avengers score, this is, in my opinion, again, all subjective, right? This is the most intense score he's ever written, because I sometimes when I listen to the original Avengers score back, the ultimate theme, their Avengers theme, holds up. It's beautiful, but the action and the just the score for the movie holds up, but it's not as memorable. Here there's so many intense shit in this where you're gonna be, what did I tell you before we started recording, bro? Like, my favorite intense delivery from Silvestri is when Thanos pulls in that moon. That the choir comes out, and then the fucking brass comes together. Oh man, this is a score I've been listening to over and over again. The deluxe edition. Silvestri's killed it with this score, and then this is one of the most emotional scores he's ever written, especially with the Gamora sacrifice scene, which is reprised in the credits. Oh, it's such a great score. And as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, his own Spider-Man rendition when he swings out of the bus in the beginning in that New York fight. Oh, listen to the score. I love it. I can't wait to keep listening to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's as I was sort of saying before, is it's been a long time coming. I think they've used the Avengers. This is the best use of the Avengers theme that we've had. I mean, it was great use of it. When it was originally composed with the first Avengers, and obviously,
This is more intense here.
I've got my quarrels with Age of Ultron and that score, but I mean, this time
It's a hybrid. I think it's a hybrid.
it's like this time I really appreciate we've got some new material. We've got Thanos' theme, and just I mean, there's been a major push for just a really rich, memorable score where I believe they've been using a lot of John Williams as sort of the temp scores for this, and I like
especially the Neville Lear scenes when he goes to
that's
the
what
dying,
I thought. There's
the dying star.
a lot of Star Wars and Harry Potter sort of little like motifs. I can kind of hear like, especially when I think that when they're entering nowhere, when they're just about to enter nowhere, you get a little bit of the Star Wars. It's a little bit of a, it's a little bit in, and I'm really glad that.
And a bit of Potter when they enter Neverlear, where he creates Stormbreaker.
That's right, and I'm really glad that they did, because I mean, you've got Williams, and Williams will probably be remembered as the the greatest
composer of all time.
And why not? You've got, I mean, Kevin Feige, unabashed, massive fan of John Williams' work from the past, massive Superman fan, massive Star Wars fan, so he's obviously gone. Look, we need to send the Avengers out. If this is going to be the end of Phase 3, we're going to send everything out on the biggest way possible, and we've got to get the score right, because getting the score right, we can't just as sort of like Perlmutter was doing, cutting costs in areas and not putting as much cost into scores, and really giving it, it got a bit repetitive and generic in Phase 2. Like Phase 2, I think is sort of like that down. Yeah,
this is the comeuppance hurrah moment for the scores.
A lot, like really, I would say since Doctor Strange, we've really seen Kevin Feige go, okay, cool, we're done with Ike Perlmutter's sort of reign and sort of being really tight with money and how much we spend on music. Now we can
less said about that, the better.
Exactly. So I mean, for me, my MVP of the movie is Thor. The entrance Thor makes when he gets to Earth through the Bifrost, and then you get the fanfare, the Avengers fanfare. He's got Rocket on his shoulder. Groot. I mean, this, like, for me, I love Thor Ragnarok. It's it's in my top 5 Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, definitely, hell yeah.
And I really love what Taika Waititi did with Thor, and this one really feels like a combination of Thor Ragnarok and Joss Whedon's version of Thor that we got into the previous Avengers.
Well, don't forget the Taika pays tribute to Patrick Doyle in the ending of Thor Ragnarok. They played the original Thor theme by Patrick Doyle when he's crowned king.
Exactly. It's like we didn't get that in Thor 2, which was just that's why I think Thor 2. I mean, I know you.
I am a Brian Tyler fan. Yeah. I am. He's done great scores, but it just didn't hit with me. It
didn't resonate. I mean, once you've got Mark Mothersbaugh come in and
totally wrecks up shit.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
with that techno disco music, it's so awesome.
But just a lot of really fun moments. I think. For me, probably the two characters that probably stood out. I mean, apart from Thor, like Thor for me is
Thor. We talked about this prior. After thank goodness they gave Thor such a badass moment. Like, this is the most powerful Thor we've ever seen, and fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Finally got Thor right. I was really, really happy, and I think for me, yes. I like in my screening that was like the biggest applause that.
Yeah, he leaps. He comes into Wakanda with the Bifrost. He leaps in the air, creates the thunderclouds, brings Stormbreaker down on the ground, just decimates an army of those aliens.
Oh my god! So it's like, I think just
the sound in that too.
The sound just at its full power. We got to build that tease at the end of Thor Ragnarok, and we're like, okay, here we go. Now we've got Thor, and this is like him. He can just. He's lost, half of Asgard. He's lost his brother. He's lost his family. Here, he's not messing around. He's going to make these guys pay. And that's what I love. It's just like we can see Thor really unleash.
Speaking of the technical terms, dude, we're going to talk about IMAX right now, because as for the listeners who have known me on this channel for a long time and personally, They know how much IMAX has influenced me in making movies. So fucking when they announced that Avengers Infinity War and Avengers 4 are the first movies to shoot completely in IMAX, how could you go to a regular screen? How could you do it? Like you can't. Like how could you do that? This movie was meant for IMAX, as just as the Russo said. It's one of the best IMAX experiences I've ever had, and thank goodness, what a movie to experience the first full IMAX filmed movie, man. I can't believe I got to see Avengers in full IMAX, the full movie in my lifetime. I cannot believe that happened. But yay, we have another one coming, and I'm just aching for more. And you know they're going to do it because if this works, you know they're going to. Studios should be smart and invest money for this. Granted, it's digital, it's a little cheaper than the film cameras, but fuck it, it's almost as big. And I hope studios can learn from this, and not in every project. It doesn't need IMAX for every movie, but for the ones that do need it, I hope they watch this and say, yeah, we can invest it because what an experience. I mean, it's one of the best experiences in the movie theater of my life, dude. Like, hands down to everybody that contributed with the Russos testing it out with the airport fight in Captain America Civil War and said, hey, we're going to do this the full fucking movie. They're the ones that actually convinced Feige to do the whole thing. A round of applause for that, man. Like, you know how I feel. I've said what I've had to say. I've nerded out. Let's hear what you have to say.
It's just I couldn't believe how epic every single shot was, and it just worked with. This is basically three, it's three like full hour third acts just sort of mashed together. So you've got just fight scene after fight scene. It's just
in IMAX, bro.
In IMAX, and every single shot just looks incredible. Like yeah, if honestly, go and see it in IMAX if you have the opportunity. Obviously, if you don't have it in your area, it's like I'm not going to hold it against you. So
but you'll have the opportunity to experience at least a little bit when the Blu-ray comes out, because that aspect ratio, by God, it's going to stay up there. And I've never seen a motion picture presented and filmed and presented in IMAX in this way. And oftentimes I go to majority of the time I go to an IMAX theater and watch a movie that's on 35, and I was like, if only the height was like that, because the sets are so good. And I guess the Russos realized with IMAX, they realized that a majority of their environments as sets had real height, so it really works. And the verticality of these characters it just works.
And like that's the thing. Is so many shots are just so beautifully put together, and just every time because the CG and like there's so many visual effect shots. I mean, there are a couple
Oscar winning, in my opinion, bro. If this does not win an Oscar,
there's probably a couple
I'll say nominated.
I think nominate because I think Proxima Midnight. I think they dropped the ball a little bit on Proxima Midnight because she looks like she's come out of
sexy, bro.
But she looks like she's come out of a World of Warcraft cinematic. Just to put it bluntly, you've got guys like obviously Thanos, but like Ebony Moore looks incredible.
Badass.
Like the moment when he's when
Orvis Glaive.
Yeah, when you get to see those guys close up in your face, you get to see all the details and everything like incredible. But yeah, Proxima Midnight was the one I had a real issue with because she looks fake, man. I'm sorry. She's the one.
Shout out to an awesome actress named Carrie Coon for providing the voice.
That definitely, that's what I really liked about how the Black Order were handled. Is here are your henchmen. They're not going to wait around for Thanos to show up to get the job done. They're actually going to go out there and get things done. They're going to torture Doctor Strange. They're going to send an army. They're not bothering with that. Thanos will come if he has to come. He'll come and collect when he needs to. But they got shit done, and that's what I really liked about how the Black Order were handled. It's just okay, they're not just goons for the guys, the Avengers to knock out and kick their asses and everything. They're like, no, okay, these are guys with missions. They know exactly what they have to do. They're gonna do it. And they almost many times Vision almost gets his ass kicked, but we get a lot of
he doesn't almost get his ass kicked. He gets his ass whooped.
Many times. So
there's just never a break for that dude.
Never a break, and it's it was never going to end well for that guy.
We already knew. If you guys had any preconception of what's going to go down with the Infinity Stones, you guys knew he wasn't going to survive that.
Yeah.
Just the comeuppance of Wanda destroying the stone and then Thanos revealing to everybody, yeah, I got a time stone, bitch. I'm going to turn this back. I'm gonna have him suffer again, but even in a brutal way, because I'm gonna snap it right out of his fucking head. Oh,
Break his head
but that's so
open like
great
an
about
egg.
this movie, bro. They throw so much at you, and when the obvious is in your face, they throw so much at you that obvious gets placed in the back of your head, and when they reveal it, you're like, oh my god, I totally forgot. Especially with that time stone reveal when he twists time back to recreate, to resurrect Vision to pull the stone out of his head. You're like, oh shit. Especially when it's revealed that Thanos, one of the greatest reveals, bro, is because we all knew he was going to do the snap. We all knew it.
It was coming, yeah, we knew.
But when Thor has his hurrah moment and you literally stab Thanos with Stormbreaker, you're like, oh yes, Thor, you motherfucker, you kill him. And then he's like, you should have gone for the head. You're like, oh shit.
That's when
Snap,
you know
and
it's
you're like,
that
it was over.
that
You could have
line,
literally cut the credits right there.
yeah, that line that you should have gone for the head is going to be that one Marvel. That's going to be if there's one line that people go away from this film, it's going to be that line. You should have gone for that. That's going to be
And
remembered.
rightfully so, my brother. Rightfully so.
I'm really hoping that Russo's are known for doing callbacks. They've worked in TV. They know how to structure narratives to
Arrested
pay off.
Development.
Oh, man, they know it. I'm glad they had the running joke again, with Aliens. Have you seen that really old movie? Here's Aliens.
Yeah, and fun fact, bro, I don't think a lot of people know this. Zach, shout out to Zach, who was on my spoiler cast yesterday. He didn't know. Maybe you know this. The Russos directed You, Me, and Dupree.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, they it's crazy where they've come from. It's not, You, Me, and the Prius does not have, let's say, it doesn't have the biggest fan base.
But it's a great startup for them.
Great startup, exactly, but now they've really found their, it's like, they've really, just worked their craft into this. And
I urge you, John, and everybody listening to listen to the new episode of Empire Podcast. I'm going to slide that little thing in there because they can talk spoilers because they didn't want to. They said, we're going to do a spoiler cast with Empire down the road, probably when the Blu-ray hits. But they go into their careers and they talk about what's after their time at Marvel. And they said that the monetary gain that they've received from these Marvel movies have financed their studio. And they have like a few projects they're directing and hired directors for. They have a new studio, bro. This is so awesome.
That's awesome.
Marcus and McFeely, they hired Marcus and McFeely to be their head writers at the studio.
I'm happy, for them to just keep going, and I'm like, everything, because they give a crap. They're gonna really go all out with Avengers 4. I mean, I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm hoping.
It's all sort of, dude. He's the one who discovered it.
Exactly. I hope if I'll get it out there now. Spidey's death is, even though we knew Spidey was gonna die. What I mean is, even though we knew Spidey was going to have another movie, he's got another movie coming out next year on its standalone. But his death was the one that really, I think, he's probably the one that really got to me, where he just went, he's just a scared kid. He's just going, I'm sorry, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go.
And I don't want to go, bro.
I don't want to go, and it's tragic, and it's really, really sad.
And I want to say this and just plug this in because I got glassy during that scene. Who fucking didn't? But, it ties back into the line that Tony Stark has to Peter when he's grilling him in Homecoming, where he's like, what if somebody died tonight? But because that'd be on you. And if you died, I feel like that's on me. And what the fuck just happened? It happened. And the dude's fucking in mourning, bro.
Exactly. It's really tough. I mean, we know Spidey is obviously coming back. He's got another movie coming.
Oh, absolutely. But it's just the context that it's in. And the fact that
it's the way it's
brilliantly edited by Jeffrey Ford and his co-editor, because this movie, for me as an editor, is just brilliantly edited. That final cease to exist scene, as I call it, could have totally, or the fade, or the death. I'm going to call it the death. It's just a generic term, but what I'm going to call it, the death of the Avengers. Some of the Avengers, you could have easily had a melancholy score in there that probably would have worked with Silvestri, but the fact that there's no score and you're just hearing thunderous, thunderous clouds and thunder in the background, and you hear like the war happening in the distance, and Wakanda is even more tragic. It's as if you're there, bro. And the fact that some of the Avengers don't even see this happen, where Sam Wilson Falcon fades away, and Rhodey's literally two
No one
steps.
knows where he is. No one knows where
Yeah,
he is. It's really sad, but it's really effectively
but
put
he's literally
together.
right there in front of him, but he
Yeah.
didn't see it happen.
Yeah, no one saw him, right? So it's really effectively put together and just really makes
What
you
about
care
Groot,
about
bro?
all
Groot
the.
was sad too.
Yeah, that's the
With
thing. It's all just really well done. It's not overplayed. It's not overly dramatic.
it's
It's like
perfect
you
done.
get to feel the loss that the Avengers are sort of feeling, and you get to.
I heard sobbing in the theater,
Oh
bro.
yeah, a lot of
So much
lot
so
of
that people shushed people in the theater.
a lot of sniffles, a lot of crying, and a lot of tears, and just
Uh,
people.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
these characters, man. We love these
Love the
characters.
characters, and that's again when I mean it's all
Testament
paid
to
off. It's
Marvel.
all paid off perfectly with that post-credit scene with Samuel L. Jackson getting out of that car. We get that beautiful
Maria
tease.
Hill fades away.
The mother,
Yeah, oh,
best.
it's so good.
Oh, but of course, all paid off with that little Captain Marvel tease right at the end.
Yes, bitch. Yes.
And everyone,
Oh,
I mean, you got like there are a lot of people in the theater. I remember going like, "Oh, what's that? What's that? What's the symbol? What's the symbol?" And you know, all the comic book critics are like, "It's Captain Marvel, man! It's
yeah,
Captain
dude. We
Marvel!
shouted at dude. I stood up and I was like,
She's
oh.
coming! She's gonna save him! You know, she's gonna."
As for people who don't know, Kevin Feige has actually said that Captain Marvel is going to be the Superman of the MCU. She is going to be fucking powerful and no doubt a great aid to and a great tool in aid in defeating Thanos.
Exactly, because it's made her film absolutely essential if you want to continue the story and wonder why she was so important to that last post-credit scene. Okay, why is she the last resort? Why is Samuel L. Jackson going to her? It's like, okay, well, you've got to know. You have to find out where she is, why she wasn't there.
Especially when we saw those leaked photos of a young Sam Jackson and young Nick Fury on set.
Yeah, man.
Oh man, it's gonna be great.
it's
And
gonna
Lee Pace's Ronin's coming back. That's so awesome.
It's huge. We really have no idea what to expect.
Well, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room, bro. We're gonna talk about this right now. Dun dun dun, Hawkeye. We're gonna talk about it.
I told people going like months and months in advance. Everyone was like, no. He's listed. You know, he was on the Comic-Con spreadsheet. You know, the artwork that they put out. You're like,
Well, that Comic-Con spreadsheet was for both movies.
That's what I was saying. That's what I thought. I was always like, it's don't be so sure.
Which is an awesome spread, by the way.
Amazing spread. I prefer that. I mean, I like the Ultron spread that they did, where everyone's just fighting the robots.
Oh, that's so dope.
It's
looks like Lord of the Rings.
It looks like Lord of the Rings, but this, like, I told so many people, no, do not expect Hawkeye or Ant-Man, because, you know...
Oh, me too.
Ant-Man's going to be coming... Yeah, he's got his own film, so...
And it's brilliantly explained in a few sentences by Widow.
Yeah.
Where, like, the Accords were pressured on them. Home arrest, because they're like, okay, if you don't want to go to prison and don't want to be involved, stay in your homes and don't get out.
So that's going to make things really interesting, because I think Hawkeye will definitely be in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
No, he's called Ronin in the next movie.
Well, I was saying, I think he's definitely going to be in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think because they're tied together now. You know,
yes,
they're in the same boat. You know, they both went home to their families, and so we know Ant-Man and the Wasp is a prequel, just like Captain Marvel is. It's all set before Infinity War. You know, Ant-Man's pretty close, you know, a little bit after Civil War. So we've got a bit of time.
I have a prediction about that, bro.
Yeah.
I actually want to lay it out a little bit. I think the post-credits scene for Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to be Ant-Man, Wasp, possibly Hawkeye, but Ant-Man and Wasp will see people fading away, and then that's how it ties into Avengers 4, where they realize, oh shit, this weird shit's happening, and we're going to realize it because we've seen the last movie, and you're going to be like, oh shit, that's how they come in. They see all this shit going down.
That's it. They're only there for the very end, you know, the end times, the end game, as Doctor Strange put it. You know, he's going to see the very end.
Doctor Strange, so...
And just quickly, I think, just quickly with Hawkeye, I think, it's going to be great to see him as Ronin, because I think a lot of people are sort of predicting, and I think it's going to be correct, is he's going to be losing his family. I think his family.
Yeah, that's what I predicted.
So it's going to be brutal. But yeah, I mean, we'll jump back. For me, Tony Stark and Doctor Strange had the best sort of on-screen chemistry, they were like the best duo.
And not even chemistry, bro. Like, not even chemistry with humor. Their stories intertwine perfectly for this plot. Definitely.
the arrogant guys, the smartest guys
I'm
in
so
the
glad to
world.
hear Strange call Tony a douchebag. Somebody had to do it.
It had to happen. Like, if you're gonna put those two personalities together, you've got to have them clash. But I'm really glad that we had the little payoff. It was set up at the earlier. He's like, okay, if it's gonna be put between me, the stone, and you and Peter, I'm gonna save the stone. Whereas at the end, obviously, as part of Doctor Strange looking into the future, seeing 14 million different outcomes of the Thanos battle. He's
And
like
only one that they won ended up with everybody dying, and also Tony becoming essential
tonal.
to
Yeah,
defeating Thanos.
Tony needed to be alive, and ended up, Strange ended up sacrificing himself for the
Oh, what a great
cause.
arc for him! And talking about Strange, bro, that fucking fight, that little mini fight amongst the big Titan fight with thousands of Stranges strangling Thanos' glove and hands,
Oh, great
and
battle.
then Thanos using the stones to reject it and turning thousands of strangers into one original strange. So awesome!
Oh
This is a
yeah.
comic. Jack Kirby is like so proud right now, dude.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like, I think the most controversial choice is going to be is Star-Lord's decision in that Titan battle. I think that's going to be the big one. Choosing. I've seen a lot of
But it's
comments.
powerful,
It's
bro. It's
powerful
powerful as
because
shit.
he's. We've
And we talked
seen
about this with Zach.
we've seen we've seen Thanos. Sorry, we've seen Thor, react to losing his family with Thanos. I mean, he reacted the way he did. Like, how would you expect Star-Lord to not react in a similar way? He's like, he's just lost the love of his life, so he's gonna react pretty badly to the guy who just murdered his
It's
girlfriend.
right like Civil War, right? It's like the same idea.
Yeah, exactly. End of Civil War again. It's there's going to be emotion is usually going to take over in those sorts of circumstances. Like, yes, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, come on, why couldn't you just hold it together and stick with the plan?" It's like, no. If
Which, by the way, I'm so excited to see the reuniting of Tony and Cap in the next movie.
that's going to be
Because it got me
excellent.
chills
A
talking
lot of
about it. I'm so
people.
glad they addressed it that he's like, we're not on speaking terms, and we fell out, Banner, because you haven't been here, and the Avengers broke up. I'm like, yes, I'm sad they didn't have a reuniting in this movie, but it's okay. They addressed it, and that's beautiful and
Yeah,
awesome.
I think it's good that we're gonna, we've got to have another movie to wait for that payoff to really come together, because that's a
And now they can
big
have time to
reunion.
talk it out, too.
Well, that's a massive reunion that they got to do. You had a whole movie where the two were fighting, so you've got to really dedicate time, and especially if we've seen set photos of what's going to happen with Avengers 4. We know there's going to be some time traveling shenanigans going back to the first Avengers, where we're going to see Cap in his original Avengers costume.
It's interesting. Ant-Man's with them, too.
Ant-Man, as the Russos were saying, anyone who wasn't really involved or had less of a presence in this movie is going to have a much bigger presence in Avengers 4. So Ant-Man, of course, I think it's good that we're going to probably see. I think we're going to get a lot of Hulk in Avengers 4, because we
Definitely.
barely got we got a bit at the start. It was really interesting because seeing the Hulk being scared, but of course Marvel being great at what they do, having all the misdirections in the marketing, thinking, oh yeah, because you've got that big charging shot where everyone's together and Hulk is in that shot.
It's your money shot, but hey, it's not even in the movie.
It doesn't exist. It is just for the trailer. Complete misdirect. Just as
awesome.
Just as all the Spider-Man scenes on Titan, edited out his the arms, the extra arms that we all know.
Well, we all knew that was gonna.
We all knew that the arms were gonna be there.
It's such a great surprise.
Great surprise. I mean, we'd had some of the toy lines and marketing had sort of included the arms in it.
But if anybody knew what Iron Spider was, they'd know that would at some point would come back.
Like, Feige's gonna have the arms. There's no way they're not gonna be in the movie. But
yeah. Lord Feige, bro. Lord Feige.
Lord Feige. That's right.
Yeah.
This movie. Everything goes towards Feige for pulling this off.
Look, and shout out to Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda, Maximoff, Scarlet Witch. Everybody in this is so fucking good. I mean, so good, and even the little minor appearances like Shuri, like so awesome. It's all so good, man. Like, what can we say about this movie? I mean, I'm going to be doing separate videos on my channel, doing predictions about Avengers 4, talking about specific things. But if we're just doing a major spoiler review here, bro, like, we've covered it all. I mean, what haven't we talked about that's so amazing in this movie? We've covered it all.
That's it. It's really something that is going to really resonate with every Marvel
fan. I cannot wait to go back.
I can't wait to keep. I genuinely do feel that once I can watch this in sequence, I think watching it with Avengers 3 and 4 back to back,
It's gonna be.
I that's the thing. I really feel like you can have that 6 hour, probably a 6 hour marathon of the both films where you can just sort of
Yeah,
go.
IMAX better be doing that double feature.
I hope so. I hope so. They did the
Oh,
massive
man.
Marvel one, so the
No, but they're both
20
shot
hour one.
completely in IMAX, so it makes sense to do an IMAX double feature.
Yeah, so I'm hoping, yeah, because I genuinely think once you can watch the two movies back to back together, it's gonna have a really great, it's gonna really resonate with just emotionally what these movies have meant and how much they've done for fans, for the Marvel fans. Obviously, as I was saying in this review, I don't think if you haven't been following, if you haven't been following with the Marvel movies, this movie is going to make no sense to you. I genuinely feel that.
It's a smart movie, as Josh Brolin says. It's a very intelligent movie, and trusting the audience that have watched this for the last 10 years and never missed a beat of any movie, any Easter egg, anything. This is your movie. This is our fans' movie.
Exactly, it's for the fans. So I like it's a nitpick, but it's if obviously if you haven't seen this movie, I really don't know how it's not going to have the same level of satisfaction for you. You're not going to get
John, I can't wait to go back for a fifth time, bro. Like,
it's a great movie to
not
read.
only is this the year's longest wait for Avengers 4, it's going to be the longest Blu-ray release date of all time. It's going to be the longest Blu-ray wait of all time. It's really
going to be when we're going to find out that fourth Avengers title, because a lot of people were predicting that end of the titles for Infinity War. We'll find it out, and nope.
No, but I mean, it's going to be the longest wait for the Infinity War Blu-ray.
Yeah, I think by the time we have the
Steel
Blu-ray,
books for that, baby.
I think by the time we have the Blu-ray, we'll have that title for Avengers 4. I'm looking forward to having that. It's going to be something. It could be if they continue this. Supposedly we're getting the Skrull invasion in, or the Kree Skrull war in Captain Marvel. If we get Secret Invasion in, but I just having seen Infinity War, I kind of feel like maybe Secret Invasion might be too much.
No, because it's still Thanos' story.
That's the thing. It's like there's still so much to wrap up. You're still involved with Thanos. So I don't know if Secret Invasion would be right for this moment, because it's like, well, we've got so much that has to be fixed. They're obviously going to be time traveling. Like, this is the big space film, space adventure, which is like crazy. That the fact that the Russos can just jump into a space movie, big space adventure so easily.
This is what I wanted to say about it, and I know I mentioned it to a couple of people, but I want to mention it for your audience. Some people could say I'm comparing it wrong, and some people might agree. It's just my way of seeing this, but I'm going to lay it out right now. This is, I'll admit up front, it's not exactly the same. In fact, it's almost completely different, but the ideas are going to be the same in these comparisons. This movie is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, and then Avengers 4 is Deathly Hallows Part 2. And everybody might be like, so what the fuck are you talking about? Let me explain. It's basically in a weird, twisted way, the Infinity Gems are the Horcruxes. It's the power that Voldemort has in the Harry Potter universe. Yes, that's to, separate his souls to make him immortal. I get that. It's a totally different idea. But the fact that he has these objects that help him pursue immortality and make things the way he wants them to be, it's the same thing with the Gauntlet and Thanos. Now that he's achieved that goal, just like at the end of Deathly Hallows Part 1, Voldemort has the Elder Wand. In Part 2, I predict that in the same thing, when the Avengers find out this countermeasure of how to possibly alter all of this and possibly defeat Thanos, well, they're going to defeat Thanos, but the possibility of defeating Thanos, he's going to realize, oh shit, they found a way to possibly defeat me. So now, instead of the Avengers being in fear of Thanos, now he's going to be fearing them, because now his life is in danger. So now he is probably going to go hunting them down to prevent them from achieving this goal. I see it no other way, bro. I see it no other way. This is the villains. This is the villains' turn to be afraid of the heroes.
I'm very intrigued to see if they actually do two different, competing timelines, kind of in a Westworld sort of way, where it's like you've got a modern day timeline where we're seeing sort of the effects of what the group that do go back in time, sort of changing things as they go and what's going to happen. And I think, yeah, obviously, Captain
You're gonna
Marvel's.
see I definitely guarantee you that. Well, I can't guarantee you, but I strongly believe that Thanos at some point in Avengers 4 is going to start fearing for his life
Mm.
for the fact that the Avengers have found a way to possibly alter everything he's done. He's literally going to kill people and hunt them down out of fear just
Oh
to
yeah.
make sure that they don't defeat him.
I mean, if we had it our way, we'd just send Thor back in time with Stormbreaker and just go for Thanos as
But
he's
it's going to be
sitting on
much
his
more interesting.
chair. It's going to be much more interesting, and I can't wait.
But you would get the comparison, right? I mean, somehow that's going to be played into it.
Absolutely, I think it's going to be huge in how they figure. Yeah, how they could figure out how to get back. You could get back in time. How what that actual weakness
Long
is.
story short, Thanos is going to be afraid of losing his paradise.
Exactly. He's going to be afraid of losing that balance in the universe, or what he thinks is balance. We're going to see a lot of people come back. Gamora, Zoe Saldana actually just recently mentioned, she's back for reshoots for Avengers 4 this year, which was I was like, all right, well that's Gamora's.
Let me
back.
read you what Marcus and McFeely said about Avengers 4, bro. They said, McFeely said, if it is, and we're pretty happy with it, because, boy, Avengers 4, if anything, is bigger than what you just saw. And Marcus said, and bigger. Like, what the fuck? It only makes sense and it's epic.
Well, the Russos were saying there's a good chance it's going to be longer. Avengers 4, like this was nearly,
better be, bro.
This is nearly 3 hours, and I guarantee I have a good feeling that 4 will probably get that 3 hour runtime. I don't think, especially with how much money Infinity War is making right now, I don't see how they're not going to just go. No,
they're going to make their entire budget of those 2 movies back for just this one.
Easily. They're like, just put as much money as you need into it, and it's pretty good. Like, I think they do have a bit more time to work in post compared to Infinity War. Like Infinity War,
they have a year. They're still working on it. They said after they're done with the press, they're going immediately cutting.
Yeah, because Infinity War wraps, July-ish. So, I mean, they've been doing stuff, they did a lot of the Titan stuff very, very early on. So they had to get a lot of the Thanos stuff done very early on. So I think they had about 11 months, but from end of production to release. I think they've got like about 13 or 14 months from...
The CGI will probably even be better in this one.
I think it'll be much
this
better.
one it's not good, but in Avengers 4 it'll be a lot better because they have more time.
Exactly, because I think you need that time, especially with how complicated this movie was and trying to fit all the scenes together, try and get everything to be one cohesive story without...
They probably won't even picture lock it till a week before the premiere.
I really wouldn't be surprised. It's going to be,
and honestly, good on them, because yes, it's a lot of painstakingly hard work, but if you want great results, then you have to put in the effort.
You have to take your time with it. It's why James Cameron's taken this long to get Avatar sequels out to everyone.
Yeah, but the less said about that man right now, the better.
we don't want that.
We love you, James. We love you.
We don't want that.
But, John, this is like, what else can we say? I mean, I think
we've
wrapped it all up.
I think we've wrapped it all up. I mean, we both really. I mean, I had some issues. You've really enjoyed it. You really love it.
So we'll talk about those issues on future shows. I feel like this one we just had to geek out.
Definitely. I mean, exactly. I mean, again, you guys can go back to my non.
Shout out to Stan Lee, man. Shout out.
Yeah, great cameo. Awesome cameo.
That's the bus driver in Peter's school field trip.
It's just I can't wait to see what else they bring us. But yeah, guys.
Shot by James Gunn, by the way.
Shot by James Gunn, all in advance. So yeah, honestly, again, what?
This was fantastic.
You what? Give it a 10. Is it a 10 for you or what?
John, people are gonna crush me for being biased. I don't give a shit. This is one of the greatest movies ever made, and yes, maybe my opinion will change down the line, but for now, it's 10 out of 10. And yes, I do have those issues, but the negatives are so minuscule to everything they did right. I have to give credit where credit's due, man.
Awesome, yeah. So yeah, for me, as it was with my non-spoiler review, I'm still on an 8.5, even after seeing again. As I was saying, once Avengers 4 come out, opinion may change. I've still got those sort of issues that I mentioned prominently in the non-spoiler review, so you guys can check that out again if you want to go into more depth with that. But this is going to be a Marvel.
What a fantastic discussion!
What an awesome discussion! Also, I'm really glad you guys were here for it. We're going to have more, discussions in the near future. There's still a lot of big movies to come out this year that we're all
We're
looking
gonna do
forward
all
to.
of them.
Yeah, Infinity War. This is one of these movies that just comes around every now and then. That it's just going to have people talking for such a long time. This
Oh,
is
I'm sure we won't stop talking about it either.
exactly. People are going to be talking about this Marvel movie for a long time. It's going to affect the Marvel fandom
Yep.
forever. No one's coming back from this. No one's
Uh,
unscathed.
in the greatest way
Greatest
possible
way
too.
possible. So with that, we're gonna wrap it up. Of course, I'll have Vahn's contact details. His links down in the description. But just so the guys can hear it on the podcast, Vahn, where can people find you?
Just at ImAFilmEditor on Twitter and Instagram. And shout out to Mike Fallon, John. We got 2 projects coming up with him. I am editing a Power Rangers fan film with a great cast called Dying Dragon. I'm excited to get started on that.
Excellent. And of course, you guys can always follow The Mono Report on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram now, all at The Mono Report. We just crossed, I think we're close to 750 on the Facebook page.
Well, that's fantastic.
We're getting pretty high. I'm really impressed with the community that's really come together and just all the discussions we've been having.
Bunch of great people, man. A lot of cool people.
A lot of cool people have really come onto the page, and I get to see a lot of people have become really quite familiar. Even though we don't know these people face to face, I get to see a lot of the same sort of names pop up, and it's always just nice seeing these guys come together. So again, guys, thank you for joining us for this really special Avengers: Infinity War spoiler discussion. And don't forget to stay right here for your Mono Fix. Bye, guys.